Now let's take a look at the modulators. I'm going to start with the envelopes. So as we know, we get 3 different envelopes here, and all the modulation assignment is set up over here. The first envelope is controlling the overall amplitude of the sound, and you can't change that, but you can reuse this to modulate other parameters as well. Let's look at the controls on the envelope here. Fairly simple and straightforward. This is a 4-stage envelope. You get an attack, decay, sustain stage, and a release stage. You can adjust the curvature for the attack, make it exponential, logarithmic, same for the decay. Now there isn't one for the release, but you can link the decay and release by clicking on this button here, or this button over here. So what happens now is that just adjusting the decay will also adjust the release time. And when you do that, the decay curve will also adjust the release curve. Alright, next we have this ADR option, which ignores the sustained stage of the envelope. So now we basically have an attack, decay, release envelope. So even though I'm holding down the notes, the envelope ignores the sustained stage and just moves along. And this can be useful for one-shot style sounds, like percussion hits. Alright, I'm going to turn this off. Now we can't change this gate source, and that's because the envelope VCA is hardwired to be controlled by the polyphonic keyboard. So that's one main difference between envelopes and LFOs. Envelopes do need a gate source to trigger them, whereas LFOs just keep doing their thing. Now envelope 2 and envelope 3 are pretty much identical, except that you get to choose a gate source here. So if I click over here, we have all these different options, 3 different versions of the keyboard gate, and even other modulators like the LFO. And this can be pretty interesting. If I choose LFO 2 here, and let's shape this envelope a little bit, you can see even though I'm not playing anything, this envelope is just running because it's following the LFO. Whenever the LFO crosses that 0 line, it triggers the envelope. Alright, let's make an assignment to hear what this would sound like. I'm going to change the waveform here to something brighter like a sawtooth. Turn off morph so it's a pure sawtooth. And let's modulate the filter cutoff here. Another way to make assignments is to hit that little plus button. And now I can just increase the amount on any of these options here. So I want to choose envelope 2. So I'm going to click and drag to set the amount. And now you can see that moving even though I'm not playing anything yet. Alright, but let's have a listen to this as I play notes. Now even though I'm holding down the chord, the envelope keeps repeating. I can adjust the attack and decay. And if I adjust the rate of the LFO, we chose LFO 2, so I'll speed this up. And that speeds up the retriggering of this modulation. Pretty interesting. Alright, let's try out some of these options over here. So in poly keyboard mode, every note gets to retrigger the envelope. Let's increase the attack and decay here to hear this a bit better. So you notice how every note gets its own envelope. But if I switch to monophonic keyboard, you notice that we technically just have one envelope, and every time I press a new note, it cancels out the previous modulation, and the new one overtakes the previous one. That's why every time I press a new note, there's a bit of a silence, as it kills the previous envelope and reactivates the new one. Alright, so that's the monophonic version. And then there's the legato keyboard. In the legato mode, as long as I'm playing legato, the envelope just does not retrigger. So let's give this an even longer decay. I'm adding new notes, and you can see how that envelope decay continues to decay. Alright, so that is pretty much it. Envelope 3 is identical to envelope 2, and you can make assignments to any of the knobs. So whenever you see a little plus button next to a knob, just hit that plus button, and now you can make an assignment. Alright, in the next tutorial, we will check out the LFO section.